And that doctor was right. I was no chemo virgin. I mean, it knocked me flat. I was I was so sick, and I literally could not even think or make a decision. And I said to Glenn, I can't, I don't think I can do this. Like, what am I going to do if somebody asks me a question? I can't even make a decision. It was like I had the worst brain fog you've ever had in your life.
Who I need to be, coming from the heart, coming from the heart.
Welcome back to MOMnation from the Heart. And now a word from our sponsor.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Gilliam, Senior Mortgage Banker with Waterstone Mortgage. If you're looking to buy a new home or even refinance a current one, I'm able to help you find the best program and interest rate that fits your specific needs. You could call me anytime directly at phone number 480-635-3035 if you have any mortgage questions or if you're ready to get pre-approved for a new home purchase. Thank you.
All right. Hello. My name is Cheri, and our lovely Katie is not with us today. She's not feeling well, but we are back with another episode of From the Heart, where we share inspirational stories, useful information, and discuss a variety of women-related topics. I'm Cheri, the co-founder of MOMnation, and as I said, Katie won't be joining us today, but she will be in our hearts. We have Lauri here today as well, and we have a really great story, inspirational story that she's going to share with us. I'm really excited to dig in and ask you more questions. But before we do that, how was your weekend?
Oh, it's so fun. I just got back from Cancun, Mexico.
Wow, that sounds fun.
Went there for my birthday, so had a great time.
Happy birthday.
Thanks. How was yours?
My weekend was great. Not that exciting, but it was great. I'm still alive. I took my teenage daughter out driving. So I feel like that's a win.
Big win.
Yeah. And we did some exploring. I really like little small towns like Jerome and, places like that. So we went exploring this weekend.
Oh, that's fun.
Yes. All right. Awesome. So I guess we'll dive into it. I read a little bit about your past experiences, and I'm really eager to learn how you did what you did and just sharing that story with all of our viewers. Okay.
Yeah. Love to share.
All right. So take us back to when everything kind of started.
So I'm a 2-time cancer survivor. And basically when I was 26 years old, I was pregnant. I had a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and I found a lump in my breast, and they found out that it was lymphoma. So I needed chemotherapy right away. I was faced with the decision to either terminate my child or have the baby now or take chemotherapy while I was pregnant. So I found a doctor that was willing to treat me with chemo while I was pregnant. And, it was a really hard decision because back then in 1992, they said that, your baby could die. But I also knew having him when he only weighed a pound, because I was just like 22 weeks pregnant, and I definitely didn't want to terminate my pregnancy. So we went to church that weekend, and the pastor said, "You'll never have joy in life without taking risks." And so that was kind of my message, if you will, that I needed to take this risk of taking chemo while I was pregnant. And so I went in, and just 22 weeks pregnant, had the full-blown chemotherapy. I did 4 treatments while I was pregnant. I had a really aggressive type of lymphoma called Burkitt's lymphoma, super rare, like 0.01% of the world will ever get this, and most don't survive. And it shows up a lot in children. It's pretty common. So, pretty scary stuff, but they would do ultrasounds, and as long as Connor was gaining weight, then they would keep giving me chemo. And so at 34 weeks gestation, they decided to do an amniocentesis. So that's 6 weeks premature. For those of you who've had preemies, that's pretty early. But his lungs were developed. So they said, all right, we need to, do a C-section, have the baby, you're going to get chemo, and then we'll continue on for 5 more treatments. So it was January 6th, 1993, and the next day was my birthday. And I said, well, tomorrow's my birthday. I'm not sure I want to do all that on my birthday. And the gynecologist, OBGYN, says, I think you deserve a present. So on January 7th, 1993, I did get a C-section. Connor was born on my birthday, on my 27th birthday. He had a full head of hair. I didn't have a hair on my body. And there was tears and crying all over the delivery room, as you can imagine. Helicopter was landed on the rooftop of the hospital just in case he needed to be transported to the NICU, because the hospital I had him at didn't have a NICU. And we were all pretty confident he was going to be healthy and fine, and he was. So that was really, really just amazing day. Kaylee was 4, Colton was 3, and then Connor, was born that day. So they are now, just to catch you up, 33. I'm a grandmother, 31, and then Connor's just turned 29. So,
oh my gosh.
yeah, it's a cool story. So, when you're faced with that decision, you're kind of like, I can do anything now. And I had just started a small business out of my home where I was going to patients' houses. I'm a respiratory therapist. So is my husband. And we were going out to people's homes doing oximetry, which everyone knows now because of COVID, an oxygen level checks your oxygen level, right? So I was doing those back then to help people get oxygen in their home if they needed oxygen. But there's this component of oximetry at night. So when you sleep at night, your oxygen level will naturally go up and down. But if you have sleep apnea, it goes down and it causes this parasympathetic. It's a crazy thing, but I was just fascinated by it and I wanted to learn more and wanted to learn more. And so once I was done with all my chemo, they kind of watched me really closely because they said if it reoccurred in the first 5 years, I would have to get a bone marrow transplant. So imagine 5 years of when you're a young mom, that seems like forever. I literally thought, oh, who's going to be my kid's mom? I'm like picking out the single ladies, look like, get remarried, like crazy story. But I spent the next 5 years thinking my cancer was going to come back and I was probably not going to make it. And then I made it 5 years. And then I was like, oh, we could do anything. So I was basically feeding the hospital sleep centers with patients who had overnight oximetry desaturations, like severely, because you can't oxygenate a collapsed airway, right? So if you have sleep apnea and your airway closes, wearing oxygen is not going to get anywhere but here. So you need CPAP. You have to have your airway splinted where you wear the mask and air goes in, or you get surgery or whatever. But in order to do anything further, you need a sleep study. So I was telling all these medical providers, hey, this patient needs a sleep study. So I was thinking we could do sleep studies. I kept telling Glenn, we could do sleep studies. So I went back and learned. I became a sleep technologist, clinical sleep educator, working in the hospital, went and ran this small 2-bed sleep center in Scottsdale, grew it like crazy, told the guy, let's go, let's do more. No, I don't want to do more. So I was just kind of fed up and I was like, I want to do my own thing. So in 2002, I finally opened our first 2-bed Valley Sleep Center, and ran my first study myself. Ended up hiring people to work for me, and it kind of goes back to that: you'll never have joy in life without taking risks. It was like a huge risk. We took out a second mortgage on our home to buy the equipment to start our first company because we didn't have capital, we didn't have anything saved, and anyway, we had a 2-bed sleep center, and by 90 days, we had to turn the waiting room into a 3rd bed. And then I looked into buying a building to build out my own space. And I was able to get a small business administration loan, which are really popular now. For those of you, you can borrow money from the government for like little to nothing now. I mean, I think my first interest rate was 7%. I think now you can get a loan for 2%. So it was a really great way for me to buy my own building. And they lent me the money, we built it out, and then we had our first Valley Sleep Center Mesa, which is six beds.
So how far, this is after the 5 years, right? So how far
this is all after
eating
cancer? So I finished my cancer treatments in 1993, and I started the sleep center in 2002. So it was a while.
Okay.
I was doing a lot of home testing and doing quite well. My husband was just kind of like, no, not yet. I tell everybody that, he was building the parachute and I was like, we gotta go, it's ready. And he's like, no, I'm not done yet. I
So
was
your
ready to
youngest
jump off
is
the,
9, right?
huh?
So your youngest was 9-ish?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Kaylee was in junior high. Yeah. So and I actually was just down the street from the junior high so that I could still be the mom and, do what I needed to do. But I literally figured out how much overtime Glenn and I would have to work in the hospital to pay the debt back so that if it failed, so always have a backup plan or plan B, so that you don't go and do all this and then you're kind of stuck. And I always was kind of like, oh, we'd live in a tent. We didn't care, we not that we ever did live in a tent, but it was, I think we'd had a small place in Pine Top and we joked that like, oh, we can work at the hospital in Pine Top for the rest of our lives, which, who wants to do that? But not that that's a bad thing, but we had a plan of how to bail ourselves out if we needed to. And fast forward to 2015. Okay, now I have, gosh, close to 100 employees, 5 locations, and I find a lump in my other breast.
Oh
So
my.
now I have breast cancer. And you guys, it was like, I didn't think I would have to do chemo, but I had to have a double mastectomy, more chemo. I had a really aggressive breast cancer called HER2 positive. Again, rare but aggressive. I need more chemo. And literally, one doctor said to me, "You're no chemo virgin." I'm like, "Who says that?" But I literally had to do a whole bunch more chemo, which was super difficult. But I did it. I had the double mastectomy first, and then I had to do 18 weeks of chemo and then a whole year of Herceptin, which is immunotherapy. And it just wiped me out. And I literally thought, I'm going to lay here and watch my business do this. But I laid there and watched my business do this because I had people on my team that really cared. And I just needed to delegate and empower them, and allow them to, be in charge. And so for the first time in my life, because of cancer, I got to be the president of my organization. When I was, before my breast cancer, I was like managing things and working in my business. And I like to say we should work on our business,
Yeah.
not in it. Once it gets to like a certain point, you really have to be able to take the time to work on it. And so that, I consider cancer kind of a gift because of a lot of things. I know if something's going to happen, my family knows. We get to say the things that we want to say to each other. We get to live the life we want, like make it count. Tomorrow's not promised, where, sudden death, and accidents don't allow
Right.
that ability for the people that are still here to say goodbye. Right. And so I think that it's really healed a lot of just little things in life that, you get in little things with your friends, or you have family drama. None of it really matters. It's kind of like, don't sweat the small stuff. When you have that kind of cancer, cloud over you all the time, things are just simple. You can talk about things, work them out. There's just not that fear of, oh, I don't want to be in a conflict. You just kind of work it out,
Yeah.
and you learn unconditional love really fast.
Aw. So
But it has been a big attribute to allowing me to be able to do the things in my company and not be afraid. So the fear factor is kind of gone because of going through what I've been through. You take chemo while you're pregnant and nothing scary, nothing scarier than that.
yeah. So take me back to when you found out you were having cancer a second time, and you said that it really helped you transition from manager, kind of doing all of the things, to being your own president. So tell me a little bit more about that. What were all of the emotions that went into it? How long did it take you to progress through there?
It was so I'd had surgery, I'd had the double mastectomy, and when we own our businesses, we're kind of like superwoman and we think we can do everything. And what happened was I got my first chemo, and that doctor was right. I was no chemo virgin. It knocked me flat. I was so sick, and I literally could not even think or make a decision. And I said to Glenn, I can't, I don't think I can do this. Like, what am I going to do if somebody asks me a question? I can't even make a decision. It was like I had the worst brain fog you've ever had in your life. And I was just so afraid that I would make a wrong decision. And he's like, don't worry. I'm going to make sure I'd let everyone know. And I'd kind of already had like, you know, kind of like supervisors or managers or people that were kind of already doing. And basically what he helped me do is like, we just developed a director board, basically like, okay, you're the director of this, you're the director of that, you're the director of this. And they would basically get together, the 5 of them. I would get together with them once a week, no, once a month. Sorry. So when you do chemotherapy, I was on an every 3-week cycle. There's a part in that 3 weeks where you have like 2 or 3 good days right before you get chemo again. So I learned that, okay, look, I'm going to have those meetings on the days that I feel good. And so I just told them to like start to learn how I think, and you guys try to make decisions together. Like, what would Lauri do? This is what Lauri would say. This is what she would do. And if you guys are still not sure, call Glenn, and then we'll cut. And so basically, that's what they did. They never hardly bothered me at all. And I would do those once a month meetings, and sometimes I couldn't do them, and they just kind of took the ball and did it. And it worked. And then when I got better, when I was all done, it was like, okay, I'm back, but I still have that same team in place, and it's been 7 years. All those same people are still with me. And I still have a once a month meeting. Now we kind of even do once a quarter, because it's just, and I'm adding locations, I'm opening new things, but now they know what to do. And I don't really need to, I stop by and say hi and how's it going. And I do an end of the month audit just so I can keep my pulse on things, where I know what's going on. And then like right now I'm interviewing, we need to hire a couple new sleep physicians. I like to be involved with that just because I want a person that's a doctor who's going to work for, who are they going to work for? I like them to know who I am and that I care clinically about the patient, and I've been the patient.
Yeah.
So just little things like that, but it's hard, but it's when you're forced to do it, it's a little easier. But if I could empower or advise anybody, like just try to do it, try to step away. Don't be afraid to hire that person, that first person. Don't be afraid to put someone on payroll. People will help you build what your vision is. And if you just share your vision and cast that, and you empower them and you reward them, they'll help you get there. And I have 150 people now. Isn't that crazy?
So what I was thinking when you were telling me about this dream team that you compiled, the directors, and that they're still there, in my head, what I'm thinking is that, that says a lot about you as a person and as a leader. Because, to have that success with those people that were 100% willing to jump in, make those decisions, work with you. I love the what would Lauri do? That's amazing. But like I said, it says a lot about you as a leader, and I think empowering people is huge. So what do you think that you would tell somebody else that is going through hardships and challenges like this as a mother, and how to decide?
It's been so long since I had to go through that with my kids, but back then I would do things, and the second time I had cancer, I was like, I did this with 3 little kids. How did I do this? Well, I was a lot younger, and I think that we do I think our bodies are designed to have kids when we're young, because we have the energy and the I remember how I would stay up all night, like get the laundry done and clean the house and do my billing, because I had to do patient billing if I was out working all day doing kids. And looking back, I'm like, oh, maybe if I would have actually slept at night, I wouldn't have got cancer. So I always like to say, just make sure that you don't sacrifice your own body, for your kids. You're going to be a better mom if you eat healthy and you exercise and you sleep. Sleep, really, now we're learning, it's the number 1 pillar of overall good health. It comes first. So we do it 2/3 of our life, right? So you just want to make sure that you're getting that 7 to 9 hours that we need. And if you can't get it at night because you have small children and they're waking you up at night, make sure that you have a nap when they nap, or, just get that rest in there and establish that routine, not only for you, but for your kids. Just super, super important. Our bodies are designed to sleep. That's our number one job. It's what we do 2/3 of our life is our brain has to sleep in order to recharge our body. It's like sleep is your cell phone charger, but for your body, right?
Yeah.
So you don't charge your phone all night, you'll wake up and you're like, oh, that's not going to get me till noon. Well, the same thing happens with your sleep. If it's interrupted or you have a sleep disorder, your brain can't get you through till noon. And then you're going to crave sugar, caffeinated beverages, carbohydrates, all the foods. And then it's this vicious cycle of, okay, I'm tired and fatigued. So now I want to eat and drink this. And then I gain weight. And then I'm frustrated and I don't feel good about myself. And now I can't sleep because I have insomnia. So it's just this, it's sort of a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
So that would be my biggest thing is if you're a young mom and you're dealing with health issues, don't be afraid to ask for help. That was one thing that was so many people came to our door with food. We used to joke like Kaylee was going to grow up and wonder who was going to bring food to the door at 5 o'clock because for 6 months, someone rang my doorbell with a meal every night. Like,
Oh my goodness.
I lost the ability to like go to the grocery store, cook, like all these things that like you're supposed to do every day. It's okay to allow people to help you. Trade, on the days that you feel good, watch your friends' kids or your neighbors' kids and have them watch yours. Like your kids are going to grow up better kids if they know how to socialize and be, around other kids anyway. And you're not going to owe them anything.
Right.
People want to help you. It's a gift, and you just showing gratitude and thankfulness is all they really want and love. I remember a nurse gave Glenn. He worked in the ICU at which is now Banner Baywood, and she handed him a card, and it had $300 in it, and he brought it home, and he was like, "Well, I have to give it back," and I'm like, "No, we're not giving it back. We're going to accept the gift as cheerfully as it's given. I know we don't need the money, but we're going to do something really fun for the kids, and then we're going to take pictures and we'll mail her a thank you card." So we went out and bought like a really cool swing set,
Yeah.
and
Love that.
we took pictures and wrote her a thank you note, and we had the kids write thank you notes and thank you so much for our swing set. It was just one of those things like you didn't have a swing set, but like, okay, well, here's the money to, let's go buy one. So it's okay to accept those gifts cheerfully because people really, really do want to help in whatever way they can. And, we felt blessed because we weren't hurting financially. We had great insurance. I working for the hospital, we just had co-pays where most people you get cancer and it could put you in the, it really could put you into debt, into, catastrophic debt.
Yeah.
And I'd also say, there's a lot of programs out there, look for them and ask for help and accept it because it's temporary. Most cancers are curable nowadays. And it's not a death sentence. So have hope and keep going. Don't give up.
So now that you are a 2-time survivor, what does that look like?
So I still have to go to the doctor every 6 months. I still get sick pretty often. I was in the hospital into September with pneumonia, like didn't have COVID, 5 COVID tests later. I knew I didn't have COVID, but I get sick a lot because my immune system is pretty low. So I have to be careful. But, I also am like, I'm living my life, COVID is everywhere right now. It's all over. I was in California. My grandkids were here from Australia and, everyone got kind of like a cold and we're all panicked because, ended up not being COVID. But even if it was COVID, I would just deal with it,
Right.
But I was able to get that cold, get over it. Went to Mexico. Everyone's like, don't go to Mexico. You can't go to Mexico. COVID's everywhere. I'm going to Mexico. I'll deal with it. Like I'm living my life. I don't want to live in a bubble. And all of 22 or 2020, I should say. I mean, March 1st, the doctors were like, oh, this is going to be bad. You have to lock in. You can't go anywhere. And I did kind of do that for like 9 months, and I ended up getting it anyway, right before the vaccine came out. And I still was fine. So I didn't die from COVID either.
Yeah.
Imagine that, so, yeah, so I'm just kind of doing the things I want to do. And, another thing is just, stay within your means. When you start a business, it's real easy to be like, oh, I'm making all this money, oh, let's buy this, let's do that. Remember that, depending on what tax bracket you're in, most likely 40%, 40 cents on your dollar is going to be paid to the government. So make sure you plan for that. I learned that the hard way, like, oh, you owe this much in taxes. Well, where is it? Oh, you spent it.
Yeah.
So that's a really good, just remember, every $40 on that $100 you need to put aside to pay, your state and your government. So
Yeah, that's definitely good food for thought. I
Mhm.
like that you mentioned the different resources and business loans and stuff out there too. So
There's a
that's
lot of women grants. I never did this. I never looked into this because my husband and I own our business 50-50. But, if you're a woman only business, like look up the grant. There's a lot of women business grants I've heard. I've never done that, but that would be something that you don't have to pay it back,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, there's so many opportunities out there. I love that. We've come a long way. And you mentioned the relying on other people and saying yes. So it's kind of what MOMnation is about, right? It's our own tribe. So it's like the age old saying of it takes a village. Well, it does. It takes a tribe now. And so still over the years, that still holds true. So it made me think of sometimes I'm a single mom. So when you were talking about that, it made me think about me being stubborn, but also, where there were people that wanted to help, or where me and another single mom switched off kids and would just help each other. And you're right. Like I loved being able to do that for her, and I never wanted anything, and vice versa. So I'm glad that you pointed that out.
I have another fun saying that I don't even know where I heard it, but it's expectations minus reality equals disappointment. So, just make sure that you have that, your expectations in check. Like, is this realistic, right? So if you are having your friend, if you're allowing your friend to take your kids, don't expect anything in return because you may not get it, right? The reality of it is like, you know, or just communicate about it as well. But that expectations minus reality, and it's like in all things, right? I'm expecting to get better, but the reality is, if I don't take care of my body in the best way I can, I'm really not going to get better. What my very first oncologist said to me, Lauri, I can give you all the drugs in the book, but if you don't think that you're going to get better, you're not going to get better. So,
Yeah. Mindset is vital.
Mhm. And just having that faith that I am going to get better. There's still that fear of every once in a while, like, oh, I mean, I remember I was like, am I even going to turn 30? Am I going to be 30? I turned 30. And then now I'm like, am I going to be 60? Well, I'm 56. I might make it,
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
So,
So,
but
these genes, I know you said that the cancers that you had were both rare. Are they genetic based or?
I'm really happy you asked that. So, this is a great story. I thought, this is really weird. Now I have another cancer, and my dad's sister, she had rheumatoid arthritis. I also struggled with rheumatoid arthritis since I was a child. So she had RA, and she had just passed away of pancreatic cancer. So I tell the cancer center, I want to get genetic testing because my aunt had RA and she died of pancreatic cancer. And my granddad at the time had lung cancer. And they're like, oh, well, you don't qualify for insurance. You don't have a strong enough connection. Like, there wasn't any breast cancer. So I said, well, how much is it? I'll pay for the testing. So it was like $1,500 to get genetic testing. And it was the full panel. It would test for everything. And so I did that. And sure enough, I came back with this really, really rare genetic mutation called ATM. I tell everyone, it doesn't pass out money, it passes out cancer. So sure enough, on the spectrum is breast cancer and pancreatic cancer. So my lymphoma had nothing to do with the breast cancer, but they think the lymphoma is related to the RA, the rheumatoid arthritis. But the breast cancer wasn't related, but now I could get pancreatic cancer. So I have that cloud hanging over my head. But they watch me for that. And I'm in a study, an early detection study where they, do a scan once a year on my pancreas and they do blood work. And I'm letting them keep that because they're thinking that someday they might actually have a blood test to tell who's actually going to get pancreatic cancer.
Okay.
And then they might be able to develop a vaccine that prevents you from getting it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm super into, medical research and how cool that is that they could actually, because I mean, pancreatic cancer is like a death sentence, right? Like, you don't know anybody that survives it for very long.
Yeah.
So that's been rewarding. But I would tell you, if you were to get breast cancer, I tell anybody this, if you get diagnosed with breast cancer, get the full panel. Don't get just the BRCA gene. You need to see a genetic counselor from a cancer center like MD Anderson or the University of Arizona. You need a full panel, any kind of cancer, really. Get genetic testing because knowledge is power. Some people don't want to know, but it's important that you know because you can kind of do something about it. Some people wouldn't want to know, and I respect that. Like for example, my daughter, she's like, I don't want to know. Well, my daughter was in Australia now. They don't have that kind of testing there. And she's like, my mom has breast cancer. That's the highest risk I have. That's good enough for me. I'll take good care of myself and get scans. My boys, however, they wanted to know, and they actually both have the gene. But they also just counseled them in genetic counseling. Like if you ever get married or you co-create with someone, it's really important that they don't have this gene as well, which would be super rare, but at least they know, so one of my sons isn't having kids, they're fostering and adopting. And then my other son is not married yet. So it's just, again, he knows. And that way they don't bring, because if those two genes meet genetically, then they could end up with this. The ATM stands for some big long anatalaxia, blah, blah, blah. It's a neurological disorder that they end up with multiple cancers as a child.
Oh, wow.
Right. So nobody wants to be, we could prevent that would be good. Right.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, I mean, knowledge is power. So if you know, hey, I have this. And
well, like it would help you with your decision. Right. So if you knew you had a genetic cancer, you might not do breast conservation. Right. So breast conservation would be not having a double mastectomy. And they're very into conserving the breast these days, which is great. But like for me, I'm like, one grew lymphoma, one has breast cancer. They're coming off. I don't want to have any other opportunity for it to grow back. And they kind of fought me on that. But then when I got that positive gene, they were like, oh, good thing you did the double mastectomy or you'd be going back to surgery. Because if you have a genetic mutation, they do recommend that you do double mastectomy. So that's why I think the genetic testing is super important. And a lot of doctors don't tell you to do it.
yeah, it just seems like overall for everything, whether it's having kids or just for your own personal knowledge.
And get a lot of opinions. Like I, you have to be your own advocate. Don't wait. Okay. When they did I found my own lump, they did the mammogram and the ultrasound and they're like, well, we see something. We need to schedule you for a biopsy in 6 weeks. And I'm like, no, I'm not waiting 6 weeks. So I went to another radiology center and just booked an appointment for the next day. Right. I saw 3 different surgeons and 3 different oncologists, like all in like a 7-day period, so that I could hear what everybody had to say. So interesting how the same kind of cancer has the same protocol, but they gave different opinions because of my history and the fact that it already had chemo. Like one doctor didn't want to give me the chemo that I needed. And then the doctor that I went to said, look, we need to give you this chemo until you don't tolerate it anymore. And then we back off. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's huge, is being your own advocate in any health concern or any health related issue that comes up. I think that by far in America, we don't do that enough. We just rely on somebody that has this training and education. And I get it to a certain extent, but they're not, one person shouldn't be the gatekeeper for your own decisions
Right.
in your life. So I love that.
And one thing to know is that your oncologist is going to be your doctor for the rest of your life. So if you get cancer, you have to love that person because they are your person for the rest of your life, and they are going to manage your care for the rest of your life. So, and my first cancer, once I went 5 years, I was considered cured. So he retired, but now with breast cancer, you're not really ever considered cured. You're just like no evidence of disease, or you're in remission. It's kind of like a chronic illness, which is a bummer, but I'm 7 years cancer free. So I'm considered cured. I consider myself cured. I'm in a cure right now.
Yeah. So, okay. With each of these, what kind of research did you do? Did you go on the back end and research all of the things that you could, or?
For the lymphoma, we barely had computers in 1992. And I think someone had told me, do not go on the internet, because it was like everybody was dying of it. So I didn't really do much. I just trusted him and did what he told me to. And because it was also one of these things where this is either going to work or it's not. And it worked. I was very blessed and lucky, and it worked. And then with the breast cancer, I think just listening to the different opinions. I like to steer people away from just going on the internet and Googling things, because it gets really, really overwhelming and scary. And there's always the bad stuff that comes up. Like even my double mastectomy, I didn't Google anything because I was just like, well, I'm going to get what I'm going to get, And okay, here's another thing. Did you even know that they could do immediate reconstruction? So I ended up being a candidate for nipple skin sparing. So typically with the double mastectomy, they chop it, they take it all off. I should say chop, but they remove all your breast tissue, your skin, and your areolas. Well, if your cancer tumor is small enough, and this is why early detection is key, and most of you will find your own breast cancer yourself by doing self-examination, feel it on the first. I like to tell people, do your exam every first of the month. Make sure you lift your arms, because that's how I felt mine. Arm down, I didn't feel it. Arm up, I felt it. And none of the surgeon, radiologist, nobody could feel it. Only I could feel it. So if your tumor is small enough and it's far enough away from your areolas, your nipples, you can keep them. So they didn't know. I went to sleep not knowing if I'd wake up with the rib cage and a sternum, and that was it, or I would have fully reconstructed breasts. And one of the plastic surgeons that I saw was like, no, you can't do that. The other one was like, yep, you can. So I woke up, I was in 8.5-hour surgery, getting all the tissue, and they rebuilt my breast. So it was like, I had a double mastectomy, but then I didn't go through that whole, I lost my breasts. I mean, I don't have feeling, I can't feel anything. Everything's numb. But it was like a miracle to wake up to that. It was almost like Connor's day of birth all over again. I was so happy. My family was so happy. So
That's another great point you brought up, that one doctor said no, one doctor said yeah. So we're seeing this reoccurring pattern.
mm-hmm.
And it's not, and I think it's important to mention that it doesn't mean that X doctor doesn't believe, or it just could be that they lack the knowledge, or they haven't tried it before. I mean, we have to understand that too, within healthcare, within medicine, there's different levels of expertise. There's different levels of, some doctors are willing to push the limit and learn and try new things, and some just want to play it safe. So I think that reoccurring message of get different consultations, try and see, get as many opinions as you can for anything is really important.
Yeah, it really worked for me. And don't be afraid. And they're practicing medicine. They're humans. They're not perfect. So they're all going to have a different way of training. They come from different places, different backgrounds. So yeah, it's good to, and we're so lucky living in Phoenix, right? That we have really, really solid medical systems here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of healthcare hubs across the US even. So even if you have to travel.
Mhm.
But great. So, okay. So then now moving forward to where you are today in your business, what does that look now that you are 7 years remission, recovery? What does your business look like today?
So I now have 7 locations and 150 employees. I want to grow, and I kind of feel invincible again. So we've just been, uh, riding the wave, I guess. We recently, with the supply and demand, and some of our medical equipment is made with the microchip, and so we have challenges, but we're just trying to figure out ways to overcome them, and do the best that we can do, and just trying to keep our team solid and happy and employed. We had to go through and do like a company-wide raise across the board so that people didn't leave, because there was people weren't wanting to work there for a little bit. And
I feel that.
I didn't close down over the pandemic. I didn't have to lay anyone off. I just kept trudging through and took advantage of, the government assistance that was offered. That's another thing, is like, pay attention to stuff like that. There's so many of you out there that might feel like, oh, I'm too small, they won't help me. Oh yeah, they will. Yeah. Don't be afraid to take advantage of opportunities when they come along, because there's nothing better than money you don't have to pay back. Right.
Yes,
And you might need it. You might think you won't need it, but when you need it, it's too late. You didn't get to apply for it. So
yes.
yeah.
Well, so what would someone, let's say one of our moms needs a sleep study, or what are some of the things besides a sleep study that they would come to you for?
So one of the things that's important is we're not just sleep studies. We're like a full comprehensive sleep program where we will see you in clinic and consultation. And no matter what your sleep issue is, we will help diagnose it and treat it. So all sleep disorders. So if you have sleep apnea, if you have insomnia, we see pediatrics. If you have children, believe it or not, sleep apnea is really common in children. So if your child snores, that's not normal. Definitely make sure that you bring them in to see one of our board certified pediatric sleep physicians, so that we can do a sleep study and see how severe that obstructive apnea is. And the younger they are, the easier it is to treat. And it's better to, get those tonsils out, adenoids out, things like that. And then it will help them through their if you get into the teenage years, sometimes now the childhood obesity is kicked in. And again, it's not too late. Like, we can still help with that stuff. We also have a whole program where we help people lose weight. It's called Sleep to Slender, because if you have sleep disorders, most likely you are having a weight problem. So we like to help people get that, sleep disorder treated, and then we can help you shed those pounds so that you're healthy and that your sleep will be healthy. Yeah, so we also have mid-level providers, nurse practitioners who specialize in sleep. And Tucson, Goodyear, Glendale, Scottsdale, Phoenix, Chandler, Mesa. Did I get them all? Yeah, so 6 Valley locations, and then Tucson.
Okay, awesome.
And you could do, here's another thing. You could do this at home, okay? You can have a televisit, kind of like we're talking right now. You can get a home sleep test mailed to your house. It's disposable. You use your smartphone, and then you can have a follow-up like this just to find out. You never have to leave your house.
Oh, that's good, because as a single mom, I would be like, how am I going to go do the sleep study because I've got 3 kids at home? That's excellent.
Yep. And it's all covered by insurance, and then we also have cash pay packaging as well.
Okay, so I was going to ask you about insurance, and then I have another question. So you guys do accept insurance. That's great. But my question on that is, do you have to have your primary care provider submit a referral? No. Okay.
No. Some of the access plans, the Arizona healthcare cost containment plans they might require a referral, but we'll get it. We'll help you get it.
Okay. My other question is, so I'm a disabled veteran. Sleep apnea is huge in the veteran community. Do you guys do sleep studies for the VA?
Yep, we do.
Great.
Yep, we
Love
sure
it.
do.
Love that. Okay. Well, is there anything else that we did not cover today in your story that you feel compelled to share that you think is important for our viewers?
I just love what you guys are doing, MOMnation. I wish I had this when I was a young mom. It's so cool to have a community of women that can all collaborate and be friends and just reach out virtually. Like I could never do this when I was, 20, 30 years old. It's great. I love it. Keep doing what you're doing, and I'll keep supporting however I can. So thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming and joining us and sharing your story. It's definitely why Katie and I do this. Katie spends countless nights, sleepless nights, which we're going to have to talk to you about.
Get your sleep, girls. Get your sleep. It's not worth it.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I will definitely probably hit you up after this as well, just to kind of see what we can do. But before we close, I definitely want to make sure everybody knows that you can find us on any of your viewing platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, any of those things that you love to use. Make sure you go ahead and give us a follow for From the Heart MOMnation so you can see all of our occurring episodes. And please share, give us feedback on how you feel about the show. Hopefully, if you don't love it the first time, wait, you'll find us the next episode, and I'm sure you'll love that. And then give us a 5-star review. It helps us just get out to other moms and other women that would be inspired and really touched by stories like Lauri's. So thank you so much, you guys. And thank you so much, Lauri, for sharing your story with us again today. We loved it.
Oh, thank you. Have a
All right,
beautiful evening, everyone.
Also, will you share, once this is posted, will you share your information and how they could reach you?
Sure.
Valley Sleep Center is what it's listed as online, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
valleysleepcenter.com. Yep.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.